So I wanted to follow up and push this podcast to my archive. I was talking about one of the ways that I play Necrons with my Necron army. And that got me thinking it would be good to have in my archives some of the different ways you can build your 40K army. Because 40K is really interesting compared to other wargaming systems. Let's kind of compare this to something a little bit more serious. Chain of Command, World War II. Historical World War II, I'm playing my Germans. The army is pretty uniform. The infantry are all the same. They're equipped all the same. They're going to have, rifles and machine guns. Certainly, depending on the time period, early, mid, or late war, that's going to open up different tank options. But they're very limited. A modern army is very standardized on there. Now you get to 40K and think about your army, whatever it's going to be, Marines, Necrons, Tyranids. There's a lot of different units that you can take. There are a lot of different units that you're going to fight. And within those units, think about all the different Space Marine Tac Squad. Think about all the different configurations and all the different things that you can do with, Vanilla Marines or one of the named Ultramarines or something like that. Then, even though they don't call them tactical squads, I say a tac squad is like the base fighting unit of Space Marines. Well, then we get into what? Blood Angels, Dark Angels, Space Wolves. There's a lot of variety and diversity in 40K. And that's awesome because it's going to give you a lot of painting opportunities, modeling opportunities, collecting opportunities. But as a new player, as you are standing at that wondrous wall at your gaming shop, Space Marines, and you're like, what the heck am I going to buy? What the heck am I going to do? Where do I even start? That's what I want to look at in this kind of podcast and get it up there. So the first thing I would recommend, and this is hard, right? You've got that enthusiasm. We want to capitalize on that enthusiasm. I want to get you into 40K. I want to be at that table. I want to roll some dice with you. I want to blow some stuff up. I want to lure you to the dark side of chaos and have you see the truth of the universe and how the only way is chaos. The only way we're going to save the universe from the Tyranid threat is to embrace chaos. But with that narrative aside, watching a couple of games of 40K, seeing some of the different ways to play the armies, whether you've decided on a specific army, I'm playing Space Marines, or you're like, oh, I could play Space Marines, Tyranids, maybe Grey Knights, I don't know. You're going to get to be able to see the different units and how they work, because this is going to allow your expectations to develop what I call the player personality. And this is one of the challenges that we don't always realize in 40K. In a war game where there's a big diversity of units, you and I are sitting down to play 40K. We're using the same rule set. Our ambitions might be completely different. I might be there for a narrative game, and you might be there to win at all costs and play a tournament game, right? We need to kind of know what are our expectations of 40K. So as a player, what games do you enjoy? How do you enjoy playing? Being honest with your opponent, being honest with yourself, that is going to influence your army, how it builds. You might say, look, I want tournament play. I want competitive play. I want to sit down. I want to win. Yeah, I want to have some fun. Yeah, I want to have cool terrain. Okay, the narrative's kind of neat, this Emperor, Immortal God Emperor and stuff like that, and the Inquisition, but I want to win. This is a war game. I want to win. I want to dominate on the table. If that is your player personality, that is going to lead you in a direction for selecting different units than, say, someone that is like, hey, I really like Space Marine bikes. I want like the Marine Bike Force on there. They don't know how it plays. They don't know what to do, but they're just like, you know what? I want to have like lots and lots of bikes. And maybe I'm going to do both. Maybe I'm going to do like Raven Wing and paint up a whole bunch of them White Scars on there. Two different player personalities. So some of the different ways to build your army. Certainly if you're going to be a win-at-all-cost power player, competitive player, and I don't use those terms in a dishonest way. They're accurate descriptions. This is your hobby as it is mine. Then you're going to look and select units. What is the best right now in the rules? Games Workshop, as they release new models, they make the rules the best for them, the least amount of points, the most options, because they want everyone to go out and buy those units, buy those models. So you literally start by looking at What are the newest releases on there? Then you look at what are the newest armies or sub-armies or factions out there, because Games Workshop wants you to go out and buy the sets and buy the models. That's going to show you the way to how to build your army. A second way, kind of the middle ground, is where you develop a strong core army. You look at, in the rules for your army, and this is not army specific, right? You would look at Space Marines, you would look at Tyranids, and say, what makes that army unique? What are the things that this army can utilize that other armies don't have? An example would be Marines, most of the time, all the time, get a saving throw. Imperial Guard, Tyranids don't always get a saving throw. Therefore, armor save, excuse me, saving throw. I'm thinking D&D. D&D game tomorrow I'm running, so I'm kind of got that filter going through my mind also. So you look and say, well, armor saves are pretty important for Marines, so I want to use that as an advantage. Or you say, look, Guard can throw out lots and lots of tanks with lots and lots of DACA for cheap points, so I'm going to utilize a lot of tanks. I know I'm generalizing a little bit, but you really go into detail and say, what does my army do? Space Elf Magics, whatever it's going to be on the table, you build your core around that. You select powerful units around that. So if you field this core army, you're going to have a solid base. Then you look at the other units in the codex, and you mix and match. So this type of midway army is the idea where you would say, look, I love Eldar, so I'm going to collect everything there is for Eldar. It might take 2 or 3 years, but I'm going to have like 2 or 3 or 4 of every single unit. All the aspects, all the vehicles, Farseer, Autarch, all that type of stuff. I'm going to have like a gaming shelf. It's got like, Space Elf webway portals on it and everything. It's going to be like Eldar, and there's going to be like lights flashing. It's going to be amazing. As soon as you walk into my man cave, this is what you're going to see. Then that's how you effectively build that. You start with a core, and then you kind of look out and incorporate units. The third way, and this is how I tend to play 40K, the narrative way. I've won many games. I've lost many games. I've played in tournaments. I've played in small things. I've played in massive, massive, massive narrative, big games. They call it War Games Con now, but Bowls Con, years and years ago, the guys at Bell of Lost Souls, Larry and Goatboy and J-Wolf, they invited myself and Jawa Balls down. Amazing hosts, amazing time, amazing opportunities. Can't say enough about the awesomeness of that group down there. But we were playing in a massive, massive apocalypse game. Titans were thrown around like it was candy, like it was just crazy on this huge table. And I was playing my Eldar, and I had a group of Rangers with not an Autarch, a Farseer attached to them. And there was this the gaming table was massive. It was literally 6 or 7 feet tall. I'm 6'3", and I could barely touch the top of this kind of hill. Well, not hill, this mountain tower thing on there. I could barely get up there. And I thought to myself, the game was going to go on for 3 days, just cycling units like crazy. So I thought to myself, if I infiltrate in to that mountain and I get to the top, has there ever been a more amazing sniper opportunity in all of 40K? This quest to actually utilize snipers as snipers. So I infiltrate in there, and I spend literally, I have other units that I'm playing. I'm playing my jet bikes, and I'm running my Harlequins around and stuff. But I spend 4 hours worth of game turns with this unit slowly making its way up this mountain, with this Farseer. I finally get to the top, and then I realize, well, at the time, range, it's only 36 inches. So unless a Titan walks by, I can't do anything. I have range to nothing on there. So this kind of narrative idea, that's what I want to play with 40K. I want to have this, I want to do something cool. I want to play an idea. Sam Han, all war host, right? Jet bikes, Vipers, vehicles, nothing on foot. You could play Eldar any way you want to play, but in my mind, that's how I want to play Sam Han. So you have a theory, you have a narrative, you have something you want to do on the table. My Cornate Berserkers, lots and lots of Zerkers running across the table, putting you to the bolt pistol and chainsword. If you want to play a themed army, a narrative army, you have to go into this. And the reason why I say I kind of lead this part third, I've had my fill of glory in 40K. And I want more glory, but now I want to do something special on the tabletop. I want to create something special. I want to create a memorable moment. I want the victories to be kind of really interesting. And if I do lose, I mean, I lose a lot of games of 40K. If I do lose, I want to have fun losing. I mean, with my Cornate Berserkers, there'll be times where I'm just in trouble, man. It's turn 2 and I'm in trouble turn 3. I'm going to lose this game. And I know you should never give up. And I'm going to play it to the end because we have that social contract, but I'm going to lose this game. I'm not tied to winning or losing. So at that point, the order is given, all the chain swords come out, and I have 100 Zerkers just charge you next turn, running across the table. You know, the opponent's like, wait, what? Why are you doing that? It's like, well, you know, Cornate Glory, bro. Let's go. And even if I lose, I have fun in losing, right? Khorne is always honored in that way. So when you build this narrative army, you have to be aware that there are a lot of disadvantages. If you go up against someone, the first example of a win-at-all-cost army, they're, even before we get to tactics or their ability to play, they have the advantage because they're piggybacking on the metrics of Games Workshop and GW, you know, the plastic crack that they're pushing in the moment. If you go up against someone that has built a core army, meaning they assembled an army based on what's unique for their army and they can add a diversification of units, you're going to be up to a challenge there. So there's this learning curve with a narrative army where you say, okay, this is what I want the army to do. I want to run across the table with lots of close combat units, bolt pistols and chainswords, and you know, put you to the sword, put you to the test. Okay, so I'm going to select only units that do that. I'm going to select units that can deliver them there and get me there as quickly as possible, and a couple other little tactical ideas. But then you now need to say, well, my opponent is not going to let that happen. They're going to stop it. What are the ways that they can stop your themed army? In the case of my Berserkers of Scalathrax, speed bumps, bubble units, just waves of cheap expendable stuff, mobility in themselves, right? They could have a fast unit that just runs away from me. So with what they're going to stop me, what do I then add to my list to counter the counter? How am I going to prevent my opponent from doing that? So in this case, as a small example, and there are no right or wrong answers. You would need to ask the questions to determine them yourself. I'm going to run across the table and get you into the assault. I need to make sure that you stay in your deployment zone. So this way I know where to go, because I can't chase you around the table. We don't have that many game turns on there. Plus, as I'm running towards you, or zooming towards you in Rhinos and Land Raiders, you are shooting at me. I'm taking losses. And if I take enough losses by the time I reach you in your deployment zone, I don't have critical mass. And even though I'm hitting you in the assault, I'm not generating the volume of dice that I need to take you out. So, okay, well, how are we going to prevent that? Well, let's see. I'm going to run across the table with some fast stuff, some spawn, and a Lord on a Juggernaut. I'm going to drop in lots and lots of Terminators. I'm going to Termi-Bomb, Termicide, your deployment zone. Yeah, you'll kill them, but that's going to keep you locked in place. I'm going to cause some preliminary damage. I can use my Termicide units to kind of target units that would potentially slow down my incoming Zerkers and Cultists and everything else, and crazy Hellbrutes. And then, boom, I'm going to hit you with there. So you really need to have some sort of plan and think out your themed army. How am I going to manifest this on the table? How is my opponent going to stop it? What is the answer to it? And then you need to kind of look and master that. So my advice, that is my advice, is you are staring. I can visualize it. I can close my eyes. I can see it. That wall of models, every single model for the army you've picked, you know, Space Marines, Necrons, Eldar, and sitting there and thinking to yourself, in all honesty, your player personality, what kind of army do you want to play? And how do you want to play it? Being honest with yourself, embracing that, but realizing there's certain expectations that come with that.